Left.
And is he going to go?
I know, you got to go. That's crazy.
I think I dropped him. Is he in the same time zone? Do we have time to make a coffee?
That was brutal.
You almost had me.
Yeah, I trying to think of the list of excuses in the 3 hours I had to get back on here. That is unreal.
Mechanical.
Yeah, double puncture, left and right leg. I mean, that's probably the best segue I could have imagined to lead us into. How'd you get so fast?
I'm fresh. I think that's, haven't been riding too much, so yeah, freshness is there.
And you're quite an instinctive rider, right?
Yeah.
More than, I get the sense, I look at, I think it was La Vuelta, stage 20.
Yes.
Most combative rider.
Yes.
And having done that ride engine to engine, there was that moment where you were like, okay, you ready to go fast? It was like, this guy just loves racing his bike. Doesn't seem, I'm sure there's some science behind there, but more instinctive, natural, or
I think
data science?
I ride more on feel, and I'll be honest with you, I think, I wouldn't say it hindered my career, but I think if I was a bit smarter and a bit more meticulous and maybe planned things a bit better, I could have potentially done better, but yeah, I'm a natural born racer. I just love to go hard, even if it's stupid and at the wrong time. I just like racing, and you know.
Is that what happened on stage 20 at that La Vuelta? It was stage 20, huh?
Stage 20, and you know what? It was the Queen stage, close to 5,000 meters of climbing. Definitely not a stage for me, but you know, at the time with UAE, that squad we had was quite open, and you know, I hadn't really had my own opportunity, so I just went for it, you know. And had I got dropped 100 k's in or whatever, I thought this is my last real day because the final stage was a TT. Let's go for it. And yeah, next thing I know, I was on the pointy end and solo for 60 k's, and yeah, they caught me with 2 k's to go. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Now, while you're in that 60 to go, what are they shouting in the earpiece?
I think the guys in the car, like I raced, the team directors were more surprised than I was there. They're like, Ryan, they're going up mountain passes, dropping guys like Roman Bardet and these renowned climbers. So yeah, they were just like, initially like, oh, just go as long as you can, enjoy the moment. And then the closer we got to the end, they were like, man, you can maybe do this. Like what's going on? Go for it. So, yeah, super special, and that encouragement in the ear while you're dying it's pretty special.
Do they have a nickname they call you? Is it Ryan? Is it Gibbons?
Gibbo.
Gibbo.
Gibbo was always my nickname.
No,
There were other nicknames too, but inappropriate ones. But out of love, I'm sure.
we're going to get to all of those. Make no mistake. Where does that stage rank in the many races you've done? I will confess I did do some race stats investigation to pick out what I thought might be some highlights. That most combative to me was just like, that sounds a lot like Brian Gibbons to me. It felt very South African, like stripped out. That looked to me pretty special.
It was. I think,
What else racks up?
Compared to that, I mean, that was a grand tour. It was also a stage that really wasn't for me. And being up there with the big boys at the end, I just think because it was so like, I wouldn't say out of character, but I just felt out of my depth. And I was, with GC climbers when I shouldn't have been there. So that was definitely one I'm always going to remember. I think some other good ones. Tour de Langkawi was my first race as a professional. I did Dubai tour in the January, and then I was in the February. And I won stage 5. And, as like a first year professional, quite wet behind the ears, very naive. Went there just to, test the legs.
Yeah.
And then, I won stage 5 of that. It was my first professional victory. Ended up winning the tour as well, but that's always going to be up there. That first victory, racing abroad in the pro Peloton and getting to raise your arms.
That Tour de Langkawi is pretty fiercely contested, right? I mean,
It is.
It's a springboard for people.
100%. It has changed a little bit in the last few years. I think they've changed the kind of the time of year the races, and not so many World Tour teams go to it anymore. But back then it was like, Tour of the Future, and guys like Egan Bernal, a lot of riders who end up winning the Tour de France cut their teeth there. So that was special. I think also my first ever stage of the Giro d'Italia. I was 22. Again, just being at a Grand Tour, being at the Giro was a dream come true.
Yeah.
And then
yourself.
And then on stage 1, I managed to get a top 10. And again, that was just surreal. That was racing on instinct. That was no expectations, no real plan.
Go race your bike, show us what you made of.
Just go race. And I think I thrived on that. I understand cycling's become a lot more scientific, a lot more competitive, and it needs to be. You're at the pinnacle of the sport. Everything needs to be weighed and measured, monitored, controlled. That's what performance is all about. But having said that, I always thrived when I just went.
Bit of chaos.
Loved a bit of chaos.
Now, you've obviously one of the few people, maybe the only South African, pray God there'll be more in the future, that has actually raced with Tadej Pogacar. Shared an evening or two with him and been fortunate enough to, call him a friend, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely.
And he, to me, looks like someone who, maybe it's all science, but he, at least optically from the outside in, looks like he's racing on quite a lot of instinct and feel.
100%.
Is it?
I think, in the later years, more recent years, he's matured a bit. I think, you've got a team around you, you've got all this money, you've got dedicated workers, everyone's got a role. So he's kind of got to follow a script to a degree. But when I was racing with him, it was so often just, feel. I remember doing a race in Canada once where, we discussed in the hotel room the night before, 40 Ks to go, he's going to go. And we were 110 Ks in, so we still had 130 to go. And on the radio, it's like, boys, we go now.
Just like that.
Like, what do you mean? And myself and the guy, Alessandro Covi, were riding on the front of the peloton, and I was shaking my head while I was doing it. I'm like, why are we doing this? This is so stupid. Burning myself, riding 500 watts up a climb, and he's shouting to go harder and harder. Needless to say, my race ended quite soon after that, as did the rest of our team. And think 80 k's to go, he was the only guy left in our team because he decided to open up the race just because he felt good. He pulled it off, he won, and the rest of the team was watching the race on TV, but you know, we were there for a reason and he was there for a reason and he just felt like going, so he went.
And it raises a really important aspect, which is, to those who know, it's no surprise, but to many that aren't in the cycling industry, in the sport, they don't really instinctively think of cycling as a team sport.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a team player, you've got to be able to trust whoever the leader is, whoever's making those calls. Guys, I want you to go hard, bury yourself. Like, how easy was it for you slotting in for a greater purpose? Trusting someone like that and just committing, did you ever find that it was difficult to do? Was there ever some resistance there for you, or
It was
did that come quite naturally?
I think, you know, ultimately, as a South African, you know, we grew up with team sports. So, you know, you're just a part of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
And you have a role, you have a responsibility. Having said that, you know, often I'd go to races where there wasn't a clear-cut leader. And yes, I had a clear role and I did what I was told. I was a diligent employee and worker. But when it was coming to like riding for a guy like him, or riding for a guy like Mads, you just have so much conviction and belief in your leader that you just buy in and everyone buys in. And it was so easy to ride for guys like that. I mean, I'm not a climber, I'm not a workhorse like a Tim de Klerk, but I remember doing some races with Poggy where it was Amstel Gold and they're like, Ryan, you ride the front from kilometer 1. And I did it, no questions asked, and I was happy to do it. And I knew it meant my race was over and I wasn't going to be at the pointy end. I wasn't even going to realistically make the finish line, but I was riding for the best ride in the world. And the odds were that he was going to win, and he did. So, yeah, definitely was quite easy to work and bury yourself for guys like that.
What are some of the reward mechanisms in the back office of a team, whether it's Lidl Trek, whether it's UAE, Fly Collective? You go, you do your job. Post-race, are there some moments of appreciation? Are you thanked? Does that come into the equation? Are you credited as part of a team, or does the spotlight really just fall on the victor of the day?
To be 100% honest with you, it does. And that's what you were saying now about cycling being a team sport, yet there's one guy who crosses the line first. There's one guy who gets all the attention and praise. And yes, if you've done a stellar job, you will get thanked, you will get the credit for it. Sometimes it's a pat on the back, sometimes it's a beer. You know, sometimes, you know, a lot of guys I know have got like teammate bonuses where their teammate wins and they play a distinctive role, they'll get a financial bonus.
Okay.
You know, sometimes even the victor buys gifts. You know, he's like, thanks guys, you helped me win the tour or something, everyone gets a watch.
Okay.
But that wasn't a driving factor, it was for you
That's
to
a
know.
cherry on top.
It's a bonus, you know, it's a perk, and of course it's always nice, you're not going to say no, but I think knowing that like you've been part of a bigger thing and something that you can personally achieve, that's the beauty of it.
This is going to maybe upset some of your previous teammates. Who's the best teammate you've worked with and alongside? Not necessarily leader, but who have you ridden with and been like, oh, I'll go to war for that guy? Who?
Good question. I think obviously the two big leaders. Well, I mean, I rode for 3 big leaders in my career. Mark Cavendish, you know, icon of the sport, someone I always looked up to. Very temperamental guy, very hot and cold. Sometimes I loved him, sometimes I hated him. But it was Mark Cavendish, you know.
Yeah.
So he was phenomenal. Was always nice to me. He supported me on my early days. Funny story, I was actually, when I turned pro, I was riding for the Dimension Data under 23 team at the time. And it got to the end of the year and Doug said, listen, Ran, we unfortunately don't have space for you in the pro team next year. So what we're going to do is we're going to get you a guest ride to ride on the pro team for the last 3 months of the season, just to get some exposure,
Yeah.
you know, see how it goes. And I did my first race in Italy in September with the pro team. Cavendish was there. You know, I ended up doing a pretty all right job. And literally that night at the dinner table, he's like, Ryan, don't worry about it. I'll ensure you have a contract next year. So
I want that wheel.
So you know what? I'm always going to be indebted to him. And he's always been, yeah, like at all the races, even as competitors and not teammates, you know, he's been someone that I've very much admire and very much respect, and I'm grateful for him.
That's such a nice side of the story to hear. I'll make sure we cut that out and we send it over to him, and
Yeah, hopefully.
maybe now in his softer retired years, he'll be happy to hear those things.
Exactly.
That's you know, there's a palmarès that people will remember, of course. But if I look at, this includes you, people remember the person you were alongside any of your accolades.
So true. So true.
I can think of people I'd rather not mention that will be remembered as champions, but
Not as a good guy, or not as.
you want people to remember you as a champion, and that's an holistic term to me. And if I look at the current pro peloton, I mean, it's hard. Taddy's obviously extremely dominant right now, but you look at the rest of them. It's you. I was fortunate enough to meet Jonas and White at the Tour de France last year.
Yes.
They're all really great people. They're extremely down to earth.
Yeah.
Taddy possibly the most. You know, high-fiving his competitors and always crediting the team. And I think that says a lot about what a real champion is.
Exactly. I think having that humility, and also, I think as a professional sportsman, you have to be selfish. You have to be self-absorbed to a certain degree. You have to be confident. But it's a very fine line between arrogance and just being a real horrible person. And yeah, the guys right now, they are good ambassadors of the sport. They're good role models, and they actually are good people. I mean, I think sometimes
that's real. That's authentic. Yeah. I mean, you've seen the reality of this pro peloton.
It is. I mean, I can be honest with you. I've probably had a fight with every single person in the peloton, teammates or non-teammates.
Yeah.
And that's in the heat of the moment. But I think genuinely to the core, I can probably name 5 people who are just horrible people out of a peloton of 500 plus.
I'll take those odds. That's all right.
No, it is. Guys are good guys.
Now you've done, let me not butcher the stats, 8 World Tours, 7 Classics, 10 race victories. This is me reciting here.
Sure, I'm impressed. You have notes on your stem or something?
Yeah, attack at 1 meter to go and try hang on. I need to get my pen and cross that out so I can drop like a sack of potatoes. Anyone riding a bicycle, I would argue, dreams of lining up at that Tour de France more than anything. Having actually done all of them, done the classics, we're in the heat of the classic season right now. 2 questions. One, coming from South Africa, we mentioned data, which I want to circle back to in terms of the role they played in getting people like you onto that scene, because that's no longer. But which of those, World Tours, Classics, where does Gibbo prefer to find himself?
I always thought it would be Classics. I always thought, based on the kind of rider I am, that would be where I'd thrive. But it's hard. People don't realize how relentlessly hard those are. It's 250 to 280K days. The weather's miserable. You're fighting on a road half the size of this with 200 people who are willing to die for their space. They were beautiful and they were special, but no, those were rough. The 3-week tours were always super special. I mean, those are iconic. Those were definitely where I felt more at home and more comfortable.
Paris-Roubaix is this weekend.
Yes.
If I recall correctly, there's a DNF and then there's a finish, a decent finish.
There was a DNF because I gave my bike to our team leader.
Yes.
After Arenberg, so about 150 k's in, Edvald Bosenhagen with DD, he was there and he needed a bike, and naturally he took my bike and that was my role, and I stood on the side of the road for a while and never got a bike, so that was my race. But yeah, I got to finish on the velodrome, got to complete Paris-Roubaix, the hell of the north, and that is something I'll never forget. Never want to repeat.
I was going to ask. How gnarly are those cobbles?
Oh,
Is there
man.
anything we can compare them to?
There really isn't. I started as a mountain biker locally. I did cross country. I always thought, oh, cobblestones, not so bad. They're bad, man. It's not paving. It's cobblestones. I mean, on the
Setup, 28 mil tires,
oh man,
tubeless.
my first time I think I was on 25.
Oh my God.
25 C clinchers, riding at maybe 6 bar. The last time I did it, 32 at I think 3.5 bar.
Oh,
and
the
you
2.5 is still, that's still something.
It's still something, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, you bleed from your hands, you bleed from your bum, you bleed from your feet. Every point of contact is raw at the end of that. And you know it going in, you know it's gonna suck, and you know the next week of your life is gonna suck, but you know, you're at Paris-Roubaix.
Yeah, I love my job, I love my job, I love my job.
Exactly.
So if you could do it all over again and you could pick your race calendar, World Tours would be the defining feature.
100%. I think Giro was always a special one, it's the one I did the most, but it was also tough, you know, long stages, the climbs were super steep, weather was always very temperamental. But the Tour and Vuelta, La Vuelta was always like later on in the year.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Any day of the week. If I got told every year I'd have to do that, I'd be
Happy.
do it with a smile.
And if you had to pick one?
I'd say Vuelta.
Oh, really?
The Tour is super special, and like you say, it's the pinnacle of the sport. It's every person's dream. But the stress around it, the admin around it, it's getting harder and harder. You know, you're on the bike for sometimes 5-6 hours, but it's 12-hour days because you're in the bus for hours before, you're in traffic, you're dealing with media, all that. It's just a very stressful period. You know,
Yeah.
all the sponsors are there, all the, you know, big dogs are there. It's all about performance. With Vuelta, you know, it's the end of the season, guys are like, oh, squeeze the lemon, do what you
Suck
can
it
do.
up.
But there was always a bit more freedom there, a little bit more relaxed. So yeah, that was definitely a favorite for me.
Yeah.
I'll follow you.
We'll see you guys at the bottom. We'll see you at the bottom. A greater level of competition
That's
here bridges the capability you have when you go over there. Do you think it's as one-to-one as that? Like,
I truly do.
get more tours, get this volume in.
Get the volume in.
You're not going to have the narrow roads, but guys are going to go over there and be.
And you can learn, but they'll have the confidence, they'll have the depth. You know, where guys, you're racing here. I mean, my last race was Cape Town Cycle Tour. That was a month ago. I'm not racing again for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
And the next race I do will be 100 Ks. You know, I could literally not ride a bike now for the next 2 months, you know, do 4 weeks of training and maybe not win, but I'll be competitive.
Yeah.
And you can get lazy, you get complacent.
Yeah.
And why would people do 5-hour training days every single day if they don't need it?
Yeah. I mean, we've got the gravel season, which is another topic entirely,
true.
but that's, good point. We're going to get a coffee.
Definitely.
Critical. How do you take your coffee?
Depends on the time of the day. I think
7:45. What do we do?
flat white, 100%.
Flat white almond milk?
No. Real milk. Cow milk.
There you go, grab you one. That I can get behind as a South African, knowing the struggles of our country more than a big chain. Now those big chains also influence the people that are also, so it's like it's a catch-22.
Yeah, I get you 100%.
My vote is always going to go to a truly authentic.
Yeah, and you can see directly out, like you say, where you're.
And there it is, literally right there. You can see the story. Like, you know what you're helping, you know what you're doing.
So cool.
Ollie's in Cape Town, by far my favorite. I actually don't go anywhere else anymore. Clubhouse. Properly supported the community there. Matt Kizza also, like, he's super involved. He's brought fashion to the mainstream in Cape Town. Like, you think it was always there. Like, it really wasn't. He's like properly disrupted in a good way. And like, they just sit in the background.
Yeah, not
No
too
fireworks. They are
important.
so committed to just developing this industry for vibes, just to make it bigger and better. That's just not, it's. And so when you come here and you see Nick, he wasn't free will at the time. It's just like you're riding around with a buddy that, like, he can hold power for quite a while though.
And
It's
you
like,
realise
wow.
who
And it's
this
like,
guy
do you
is.
know who that is? I'm like, no, I don't know who that is. Like, I know it's Nick White, but
You don't-
he's just like coach oaks and he does like some gravel tours. They're like, no, my bro. This guy's he's won a cobbled classic. I'm like, what? Yeah. No, he's raced in the blah, blah, blah. I was like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, no one knows this. Like, there's a few people. It's like, why is no one telling the story?
True. I think if you're in the know, you know, but otherwise, like, why?
And that
why would people know?
burnt me. It like irritated me so much. And I would, if I had to attribute a percentage to it, I'd say he's at least 50% of the drive to the storytelling part of this business.
Wow.
Like, that can't be. It cannot be that. So when we shot him, I think it was our first episode this year that we shot was Nick White. That was special. Yeah, anyway, I could waffle on for days about that. How's the coffee?
Really good. Really, really good.
One of my favorite local heroes, homeboy, is Mark Pritson. And I distinctly remember when he was in Girona. Anyone who knows Mark knows he gets homesick. He loves home, perhaps to his own detriment. That man loves his family, which I deeply respect about him. And I remember him commenting, saying how one of the most comforting things he had there was a fellow South African, and there's many there, but he specifically referenced you.
Really?
He may or may not have told you that, because we know how our guys are.
Of course, you never show weakness. Or
we're not so cute and cuddly, so this is me selling you out, Pritson. Telling Ryan the truth. But that really meant a lot to him. And I know, having spoken to a few people, that often that bridge overseas is largely not having any familiarity, any support, anyone to say it's going to be okay. And is that something you've done proactively, trying to help South Africans make it? Or are you just a fellow fan of Pritson?
I mean, I respect Pritson a lot, but I'm also like aware of how tough it is. You know, you leave your family, you leave your friends, you leave your country, and you go to a foreign country, and it's a different culture. And you know, just doing that without having to ride a bike is hard. Now you're doing it and you're trying to race, so it is very tough and it is taxing. And the novelty wears off after 4 weeks, and you know, you're there for a month, and then the next month rolls over, and you're looking on Instagram, and your friends and family are at bars, and you're sitting in the rain, and it's tough. So, yeah, when I started as a professional, I lived in Italy, and there were some older South Africans from Dimension Data who, I wouldn't say took me under their wing, but you know, they always would like reach out every 2 weeks and say, listen, are you all right? Or do you want to go for a coffee or something like that? And you know, when I was there in Girona, there was a lot of youngsters, and you know, I'd always try and, you know, I created a life. I had my wife there. I had a house. You know, these guys were often sharing apartments or living, you know,
like
hand to mouth, you know.
Yeah.
And they're away from all of that. So yeah, if I could help out, or say come for a ride, or let's go for a beer or a milkshake, you know, whatever. Yeah,
I'm not buying the milkshake.
It was definitely a beer. It's definitely a beer.
No, it's I feel compelled to share that story, because often people are not mindful of how their small and seemingly insignificant actions impact someone. And that might be the one extra day that the person felt like he could do it and breaks through, and you know, could change the course of your entire life. Is there a good armada of South Africans in Europe creating a subculture for people to thrive in, or are we still pretty outnumbered there and lacking as far as that being a good support base is concerned?
I think we're going through waves. I mean, you know, when I started with Dimension Data, there was a lot of South Africans, and there was a presence that's died away a lot. And I mean, we've only got one South African in the world tour now. Having said that, there's a resurgence. You know, there's a lot of youngsters coming up. There's a lot of guys like in the middle levels, like the Conti teams, the Pro Conti teams, and there's always going to be a familiar face, but it isn't as much and or as big as what it could be. So I do think it is hard, you know, for youngsters and for people like breaking on the scene, you know, because there really isn't that community.
Yeah. Who was the GOAT you had to lean on when you were over there? Did you have any access to an MP or Was there anyone there
Yeah, so
initially?
when I first turned professional, Jay Thompson was a guy who really looked after me a lot, and he was a really nice guy, and yeah, he really tried to help me, you know, and kind of mentor me. Robert Hunter, he was my agent. He was first South African to win a stage of the Tour de France. He was always a phone call away and would come and visit a bit. But then Girona, yeah, I'd MP, and you know, we had our differences. But I'd say the last kind of 3-4 years of his career, we became very close, and we still chat relatively often. And he, even now, you know, he's like in the second phase, or my phase post cycling. Am I okay? And you know, he says he knows it's a hard transition. You retire, you know. So yeah, he was definitely a great mentor and someone I could look up to.
Well, speaking about this transition, we will be physically transitioning into a different set in due course. And I really want to tuck into that, because as exciting as your career has been, you're still young. You've still got a hell of a sprint. And there's, you know, I feel like the best, most successful chapter is probably being written as we speak. Certainly being recorded as we speak. But how does that career start to wind down? I know there's, you know, from a team point of view, it's UAE, it's Needle Trek. Can you talk us through that? Like, what's going on in your head? What are you navigating? What are some of the thoughts around, you know, your wife? Where do we settle? What does that look like?
It definitely came, I think, quite abruptly. If you'd spoken to me, I think 2 years ago, I would have definitely thought I'd be riding until, I'd say, close to, at least until the LA Olympics. Kind of in my last 2 years, I had a lot of injuries. I got really sick in 2024 during the classics, and it took me a while to bounce back. You know, I came back and I did Dauphiné, I did the Tour, I did Olympics, and then I crashed just after that in Poland. Really hit my head bad. It was probably like my 8th concussion, and that's kind of where you know, the mindset shifted slightly. I was a bit more nervous. I was more cognizant and aware of the dangers. Obviously, with that, then the wife was pregnant, and also, you know, didn't enjoy seeing her husband in pain, and you know, always coming back with half his skin missing. So yeah, we kind of had a discussion, and we said we'd see how 2025 went. And quite early on in the season, I had a knee injury, and then yeah, I think the writing was on the wall. And it is what it is, you know. It wasn't planned, and you know, I know if I still wanted it, I would have been able to stay in the World Tour. But yeah, just for my own sanity and health, and I think for the health of my marriage, and you know, also had a new child, a new son, and you know, not being present, not being there. People don't realize that, you know, we had our baby, and my wife was stayed in South Africa with her support structure, and I'm away in a foreign country, and I said goodbye to him at 4 weeks old, and I saw him again when he was 3.5 months.
Oh my gosh.
You know, you miss the
cost is high.
It is high. It's a lot of sacrifice. You know, a lot of people are willing to make that sacrifice, but compounded crashes and illness and self-doubt and all of these factors, and yeah, the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze anymore.
It seems like a stupid question to ask, but I've never asked it, and I haven't heard it asked. But what is that sacrifice for? Is it the pursuit of realizing your potential, believing I as Ryan can achieve X, and like, I can't rest until I do that? Is it the glory of being in the world, you know, on the world stage? Is it money? Is it financial? What is that? What is on the flip side of that coin that is worth that immense sacrifice so many people are making?
I think it's a combination of things. I think it's different for everyone. I think at the end of the day, it is a job. So for a lot of people, they're doing it for money. You know, it's the remuneration. You're a professional athlete. Yes, you're not earning a professional footballer's salary, but you're not doing too badly. I think ultimately it's because you've just got a love for the sport. You're passionate about it, and you want to just see where your ceiling is.
Yeah.
For me, what drove me, it was never the money. It was never the accolades. It was, you know, I want to be better than I was yesterday. And of course, sometimes, you know, to be successful, you've got to be better than the guy next to you. But it was always, you know, if I could do a 20-minute or a 5-minute or whatever, hit a personal goal, I was more chuffed about that than I was about if I came fifth rather than, third. It was kind of, just challenging yourself and proving to yourself that I'm here, I belong here, I'm better than I was 2 years ago. Let's see what I can do in 2 years' time.
Fair enough. And what role does your wife play in all of this? I mean, I know the saying, behind every great man is a very strong woman, and I could spend a long time talking about my views on how much value a good partner plays in your life, and that goes both ways, women with, husbands and so on and so forth.
Of course.
What are some of the things some wives might not know? Some things your wife might not know in terms of how grateful you are.
There's a lot of sacrifice, as an athlete, but I think there's even more sacrifice from your partner, because they're giving up everything, and not even for their own dreams, they're doing it for your dreams. She left her career, went to a foreign country away from her friends and family, and while I'm the one who's out there getting to do pretty cool stuff and racing and achieving these things and getting all the attention, she's sitting in an apartment, trying to make friends, and it's friends of circumstance. It's not really best friends. It's like someone who just speaks the same language as you, and it's trying to navigate and create her own life there, which is not seen, and everyone will speak about me and comment on me, and she's kind of forgotten about. And that's really hard. And I think, the partners of professional athletes, it's so selfless of them, and they have to give up so much and live on the road and often raise families in foreign countries away from their support structure. And a massive shout out to those partners. And my wife is no different. She followed me and chased my dreams with me at the expense of her own.
Is, again, probably a rhetorical question, but how proactive is that couple's communication? I just think from my own personal standpoint, if me and Cans aren't good, I bomb. It reflects in everything I'm doing.
100%.
Like I need my home, my foundation to be strong as a springboard to perform from. And over the years, with a failed marriage behind me and a successful one at present, you learn things, and one of the, communication is just so important, so simple and so underutilized. Are there any tips? Are there any tricks there? Because I think it's such an underrated area to extract performance from. If you can figure out a good tool to create harmony at home with your partner that's going through all of this, you bridge a big gap.
Yeah.
Any pearls of wisdom there? Is a really arbitrary piece of advice to ask for?
I think you've got to just have that mutual respect and mutual understanding. And I think where I have failed personally is that, not to say that I thought what I was doing was more important, but I'd often be selfish because, I'm training and I've got to worry about my sleep and my eating and my schedule, and you completely overlook, or you not to say you don't take your partner seriously, but it's very easy to be like, well, I'm doing this, everything you're doing is insignificant. And that's not fair, and it's not healthy, and it's not right. And it just creates animosity, and I think builds up resentment, and then everyone's annoyed with everyone, and then it weighs on you, and it's taxing. Communication super important, and day by day, even as a non-pro now, it's still something that I'm trying to navigate. But you're on the road a lot. People don't realize, they see the wives at the end of a stage of a Tour de France, and you're like, oh wow, they're staying in the same hotel or whatever. But you're not. You're seeing your missus maybe for 10 minutes twice during the race. You're doing training camps away. Even though my wife was staying in Europe with me, I was spending less than 100 days with her a year. So you do have to learn how to communicate. You do have to learn how to do a long-term thing, and I think everyone navigates their own path, but communication is super important.
I'm really glad you guys have been as proactive as you have been. That's many would argue that's the thing we're all fighting for. That's the real success, the real trophy at the end of the tunnel. So winding that career up, where does it end? Is there a day? Is there a call? And how does it wind up?
Yeah, it was very challenging for me. I think I had made the decision mentally already in the March of 2025. Then it's kind of, I need to tell Mads Pedersen, I need to tell my coach, I need to tell the team boss, I need to tell my agent. And I think, yeah, it was 1st of June, if I'm not mistaken, where I finally manned up. And I called my sports director. He was kind of my point of contact. Mickey Shah, former professional as well, very nice guy, Swiss guy. And yeah, we had a chat, and he was also like, no, you're stupid. What are you doing, man? Come on, you're going to regret it.
Yeah.
You've got at least 4 more years left in you. And then I just kind of explained everything again, and he says, okay, listen, I'm not going to tell the boss just yet. Think on it. We speak in 2 weeks. And I said, no, man, I'm done.
Come on, buddy. I've done the 2 weeks. I'm here.
I've done the 3 months. I'm here. And all this is happening, like, but you don't just stop a career then. It was at the end of a season, So even though I had made the decision, I still had to still race until the end of October. But then again, 2 weeks later, I called him again, and he's like, are you sure? Are you sure? And yeah, I think it was officially announced to the team early July, and then I made it public in August.
How does that all go down?
Mixed reviews, a lot of people, I think more people are supportive, but everyone's still like, oh, you're doing it prematurely, you're going to regret it. And I guess it's always coming from a place of love, or people are just wishing that they were in my position, but they don't understand, It's so easy to say, oh man, you're giving up something so special, you're giving up what people would kill for. But that wasn't me, because I'd been there, I'd done it. Yes, maybe I could have done it longer, maybe I should have done it longer, but I wasn't feeling it. And if your heart's not in it anymore, you're wasting your time, you're wasting everyone around you's time. And yeah, I think overall I got a lot of support, and it's almost nice to be wanted. It's nice for people to say you're being silly, because it means they believe in you. But yeah, it was ultimately my decision, and I think finally people came to terms with it, and it's been well received.
And would you say that you personally have made peace with that decision? You happy? You still grappling?
Oh, every day it's a wrestle, man. It's an internal conflict.
Yeah.
Like I watch Catalonia or Paris-Nice, and I see the races in the rain, and I'm like, oh, thank God I'm not there. Because the last few years I've been there, and it's been miserable, and I've hated every second. And then the next day I'm like, oh, I do miss it. What is my sense of purpose? What is my identity? I'm just the guy who used to be a bike rider, So it is my own insecurities and maybe immaturity, and I just need to grow up a bit as well, and not focus too much on other people's perception of me. But right now, it's been 4 months since I've retired, and it's some days I regret it, some days I don't. But we move day by day.
Well, you could be in worse places, worse weather, worse activities.
So true.
Hopefully this is one of the days there's no regrets.
No, this is a day I'm definitely very chuffed to be here.
I must say, I don't think I've ever seen the weather this good in the south of Cape Town.
I've never ridden on this road and not being blown over, so this is absolutely fantastic.
In terms of racing at the moment, I know there's road races that you'll take on quite seriously, but how are you enjoying just riding? Obviously I had the privilege of being annihilated by you, at that ECC ride the other day, and it was, you couldn't ignore the smiles, the stoke, the sense of everyone around you, seemingly you included, just was having the best time just riding bikes.
Exactly.
I often wonder as a pro, I think I remember Lewis Hamilton saying he hates driving.
Yeah.
He loves racing a car, but he doesn't like driving a car, which I thought was so bizarre. And maybe it was taken out of context, I don't know, but I didn't think to myself does Gibbons still enjoy just going and riding his bike? Surely? What's that looking like? What's the love for the hobby looking like at the moment?
The love is back, and that's one thing. You know, as a professional, you're riding your bike every single day because you have to, and because you're following a plan, and because you're accountable, and because people are telling you to do it, and you have to do it. And you do start to hate it, and some days you love it, but it becomes a job and a chore, and you know, you lose that excitement where now I'm riding my bike when I want to, I'm riding for as long as I want to, and if I don't want to ride, I don't ride. And you know, the funny thing is that I've ridden my bike now I think the last 30 days I've maybe had one day off, just because I can't wait to get on the bike.
Yeah.
And it's also riding on my home roads, riding with my mates, riding as hard as I want sometimes, attacking people, attacking you, you know. It's just fun, and I'm in control of the narrative. I get to decide what I want to do, and it's awesome. And I've fallen in love with the sport again. And the irony is that I'm actually doing my best numbers now.
Oh,
typically.
no.
I hate seeing it. I actually often don't want to even upload my ride because I know there's no doubt I got to carry him today, or did my 5-second peak power of all time while I'm living on chips and beer and 5 hours of sleep. But it is what it is.
It makes me feel a lot better knowing I got dropped to you doing your best numbers ever. It explains the big gap between us. And I think, I mean, coaching makes up a big part of present day, which we'll obviously get into. But you'll no doubt know, and it'll be interesting to understand, like, a happy athlete's a strong athlete.
100%.
Structure's important, no doubt, but I mean, 4 months with your wife, your son,
Yeah.
riding when you want, enjoying a beer, guilt-free,
Yeah.
chips, whatever else. Strong correlation to good numbers.
100%. You know, I think a free mind, a willingness to suffer, you're happy, you're relaxed, you're enjoying what you're doing. You know, it's definitely a huge reason that I think I am hitting my good numbers and performing in the races. It's like I'm willing to suffer instead of it being a chore and a slog every single day, and I'm like, oh no, I've got to do these intervals. I'm choosing to do these intervals because I want to push myself, and I want to hurt and go harder and harder, and I'm also coaching myself now, so I'm holding myself accountable. I'm not doing it to tick a box. I'm not doing it to not get shouted at from someone else. And I think it's that different kind of motivation and drive, and so far so good.
That's good to hear from my perspective, but not necessarily great news for those that need to line up next year at these different races. Before we get to the descent, is there any gravel on your calendar?
There is. So Swartberg, it's at the end of April. It's still a question mark next to it, but there's chat about that. But definitely we'll be doing like Race to the Sea, Race to the Sun,
Okay.
the Nationals, and I'll probably doing Gravel Burn as well.
Ooh,
So
feisty.
I don't know if I'll be on the pointy end, but I'll be there.
Oh, there's a lot to be said for the scene at the moment. I think it's getting a lot of attention.
Definitely.
Certainly has a lot of appeal, and if drawing on what Kevin was able to do with the Epic is anything to go by, stands to reason there's something brewing there. I seem to think. I think the world stage for gravel doesn't even have the scaffolding in place yet.
Yeah.
I think it's being established. I think there's a lot of money that's going to go there. I think there's a bike industry that's absolutely dying at the moment, struggling to sell, tech that's not really moving the needle anymore.
No.
It's fair to say in many ways, and I really want to get into this bike of yours, but people are refining a really efficient design, where gravel, it's a whole new world.
Yeah, exactly.
So, no, I mean, that's a shared view. I think that's...
Definitely. I mean, for example, living in Girona's, I would also say like a hub or a mecca for gravel. And in the past 5 years, going into a bike shop where they had maybe one gravel bike and it was a novelty, to pretty much 95% of their bikes being gravel bikes. And there's a dropper post here, and there's a fork on this one, and there's more clearance here, and it's just, yeah, I reckon I'm excited to see what the next 5 years holds, and what's gonna be popping out at Eurobike, and yeah, what's gonna be on the floor in the years to come.
Well, I'm glad to know there's going to be some dirt on your tires. I think our moment has come to zoot past our camera car here and enjoy some content for a bit.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
What a morning.
Fantastic. Perfect weather conditions, beautiful roads. Yeah, epic.
Talking about riding in the south of France, you've ridden everywhere in the world. What continents haven't you ridden on?
Antarctica.
Okay.
That's it.
So this morning's ride, Cape Town in general, stacks up. It's up there?
Oh, it's up there. I mean, comparing it to like Algarve in Portugal or Costa Brava or Nice, Monaco, even Turkey, like it's up there.
Yeah,
It's up there.
That's a special place. That is probably the best weather morning I've had this year. So
I've never ridden that Misty Cliffs Road ever with that little wind and that perfect temperature, and yeah, we're spoiled.
For anyone watching this back, it isn't always that good, but it can be.
No, it's always that good. What do you mean? You know, it's like
No, we need less people moving.
All right, it's actually horrible.
Wind pumps all the time.
Terrible road surface.
Electricity, potholes. So we closed out an emotional end to professional racing in the World Tour. And you've spoken a bit off camera about some of the clues as a performance coach, Olivia Miller, that gave a really nice quote: "Success always leaves clues," which has been a nice mantra for me to focus on. You might not have it figured out, but if success is what you're chasing, look for the clues and kind of follow them, and you'll find it. What are some of the clues you're chasing down at the moment? I know there's, we spoke a bit about, Fly Collective, there's coaching, your guys' podcast, which we've been loving. So there's a few things going on there. What are some of the thoughts in terms of what that next chapter looks like?
That's a good question, and it's something I get asked a lot. And you think that if you get asked a question enough times, you actually can formulate a good answer. And the answer is I can't.
Yeah.
It is quite ambiguous. I definitely know I want to stay in the sport. I want to stay in the industry. I want to try and give back. And I know that sounds cliche, and how and in what way, shape or form, whether it be coaching, whether it be trying to motivate and inspire a young generation who want to become pro cyclists, whether it's sharing my stories. But I think, I do see my future remaining in the sport. Again, exactly in what capacity, I'm not sure. I'm racing with Fly Cool at the moment, with a group of my mates, trying to be as competitive as we can be. I've got Everride, which is what I started with, which is coaching, and going to do some collaborations, maybe some events. I'm open to anything. I think, time is ticking, and everyone said, give yourself some time. Don't just jump into something for the sake of it. That was 5 months ago, and here we are. But just riding my bike. I think that's to answer you, riding my bike.
Yeah, I think it is. There's so many cliches. This is going to be a very cliched chapter of this story, but time does heal and reveal, a hell of a lot. And I suppose it's you have the opportunity and the gift to be able to try and do what few have, which is blend passion with profit, if possible. I never understood that. Do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I've always heard it, and I was like, I think I love what I do. I love business. I love community and creating and seeing if I can do this thing that I don't think that I can do. And that first podcast we did with Simon Stoffberg, which was like almost like an accident. We don't really know how it happened. It was kind of like, let's try this thing. And it was just Reichardt and I back then. And I said to him at the end of this thing, like, I now understand that saying. It was the first time in my life we've made, I think our total channel revenue to date is 2,000 Rand.
Cruising.
So we can fill up a tank in a car at the moment.
Provided it's not diesel.
But it was the concept of doing something that you love, figuring out, look, I don't have the eternity to figure that out. There is reality. I'm not a trust fund baby, unfortunately. But that, I would say, is the golden opportunity at this moment in time. Look for the clues. Is the intention to, I mean, you're enjoying riding your bike, you're still enjoying racing. Is that one of the things people can look forward to seeing you do? Across disciplines? We touched on gravel.
For the short-term future, I think so. You know, I don't want to put too much pressure on myself, and I don't want to, you know, give people false hope or expectations. Right now, I'm enjoying it. Right now, I'm still competitive. Sometimes able to be more competitive than other times. I will be racing, mainly on the road, but yeah, definitely got to give gravel a bit of a dabble. Again, I don't know. I am competitive, so I would say I'm just going to see how it goes. But if you see me on a start line, it's because I want to do well. Mountain biking, I'm a bit nervous. I mean, I started as a mountain biker as a youngster, did the cross country circuit, but it's just getting more and more technical. And yeah, I think I'm going to run out of talent very quickly there. So I think gravel short term, but who knows? Who knows?
That's exciting. It's good. Again, one of those great for us. Maybe not so much for your competitors, but we all know competition's good. Geographically, is that a given? That Joburg, South Africa, is the foundation for now? Or is that also
definitely
could be?
I think Joburg definitely for now. You know, have a young son, having that support structure around we found is really important. It also makes our life easier as parents. I've lived outside of South Africa for the last 11 years, got to live in pretty cool places, but the one thing which was missing was community and people. You know, I'm a very social person. I like to chat and make friends and be out in places where I know what's going on. You know, I think for now, what I've missed in the last couple of years is South Africa and typically Joburg. I'm from Joburg, so I definitely think for the
Joburg people are it's a special thing. That's another cliche. We talk about it often here, that there's a lot of Joburgers say, I mean, I have an incredible community in Cape Town that we've built in a very short space of time. People that we would call real friends, not just acquaintances that you have
or friends of
coffee with.
circumstance.
Yeah, and they're all from the cycling community, largely off the back of the Pure Savage group that we ride with and have formed our community around. But Joburg people in general are just really lekker. A far cry from the Simonstown's people that, for no reason whatsoever, for anyone that doesn't know, I said to Ryan before we turned to go down towards Simonstown.
I thought this was scripted, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was your mate, because it was...
So I will wager you anything that we will be hooted at when we get into Simonstown. We will be over on the side of the road, not impeding anyone, and for no reason we'll be hooted at, because those people are just insane. Scrooge nuts. I think it was 2, 3.
But as we literally, you see the sign, Simonstown, and 8 seconds later, it was impressive.
We have and this is something you have an acute understanding of, we don't necessarily have. I've cycled abroad 2 weeks of my life. I would say that what we're dealing with in Cape Town is a real problem. Not necessarily, I mean, we've had just this past week, another cyclist hit. It's nuanced, passed away. It's the second that's largely publicized, but there's been many more pedestrians, rural communities. People are being mowed down on the road, not necessarily as hate crime against cyclists, but there's that happening. And then there is a unexplainable aggression, loathing towards the cycling community. And you need only look into the comment section. have a coffee at the cafeteria of your workplace and mention it. It's weird. What is your experience of that overseas? What is that relationship like between cyclist and community?
It differs from country to country, to be honest with you. I lived in Italy for a long time, and training on some of those roads, I was around Tuscany, and every single day there were some close calls. Look, the roads are a lot narrower. Generally, there is more respect and patience, but it was tight. And again, we obviously hear about these accidents here, but it is happening all over the world. Not as severely and as regularly as it is here. But other countries, like in Belgium, France, Spain, there is so much respect and patience and just understanding, and we're sharing this road. I mean, I remember I've done rides in Girona where I'm after like 10 minutes saying like, I want to almost move out the road. I feel so bad that there's a queue of cars behind me. No one's hooting. No one's going to speed past me. It's just, people are just chill.
It is what it is.
And yeah, like you say, people here, I think they're just aggressive. There's this nuance that cyclists are scum and they're getting in the way. And look, we don't do ourselves any favors. And even me as a driver or as a cyclist, and I'm driving in my car and I see 3 cyclists riding abreast, I also am like, guys, having said that, I understand that life is so fragile and, you're losing a couple seconds or a minute of your day, but that's someone's life.
Yeah.
And it is a big problem. So yeah, I think Europe is like overall much, much safer, and people are just way more chill.
And that's, for me, the part that I'm extremely intrigued by. And I've said it before, I wish I would come across, or that there'd be a cyclist in the community that's like about to do their thesis. Like, I would focus that on trying to understand the mentality, the irrational emotion, if there is in fact one, so measure first, and if there is, why?
Why, yeah.
Because something isn't right there. Like, I think about it often, like it's culture. So something is not right with us in many ways as a South African people. There is an irrational dynamic between, you can call it lots of different things. Globally, there's lots of division happening. So not that I want to get political or religious, but there is weird divides being forced that no one really understands. Like, generally as humans, we actually all do get on quite well, but there's always, throughout the history of time, a narrative of people dividing for whatever reason or purpose. And the cycling one is just like, no one really understands it. Now, you go to somewhere like Belgium, there's a reason that they respect, maybe even like cyclists, and I just like, what is it? Is it just heritage and history because so many greats come from there, and the nation rallies around them and are proud to celebrate them, the same as we are, when our swimmers perform, when our rugby team performs, when our proteas once every decade don't choke and perform. Like, there's no, you cannot imagine a South African being impatient. Like, if you're waiting in a queue at Muggenby and a guy's sitting there taking his time deciding which pastry he wants, and it's a Springbok. Yeah, bro, take your time.
No,
like,
you're not going to mow him down.
Can I help deliberate with you? Yeah. Like, let's break this down. Let's ask ChatGPT. Like, you'd never lose your patience.
Yeah.
You'd burn more time behind him. You know what I mean? There's just
with a smile on your face.
There's this adoration for them.
Yeah.
And I mean, did you experience anything there? Like, are they taught stuff at a young age? Is there anything that is proactively being done that helps nurture that relationship that springs to mind? Like, it's a random question, but I can't help wondering. There has to be like an actual thing that is being done consciously or otherwise that nurtures that relationship. And I just wonder if there's anything.
I think there's a lot more people cycling in Europe, whether it be commuting to work or doing it recreationally or doing it, chasing as a profession. So there's a lot more awareness about it. You especially in like Netherlands and Belgium, everyone's on bikes. Also, people are accountable. So if you bump a pedestrian or you bump a cyclist, even if it's their fault, you're in trouble. Proper trouble. So I think people, not that they're scared, I just think people are just generally more conscientious and patient and aware. Another thing is what you mentioned there. Cycling in South Africa, it's seen as, we're a weed and we're in the way and we're a nuisance. People who aren't avid cycling fans they can name Lance Armstrong. They don't care about cycling. They don't see it as a professional sport. They'll see rugby and golf and tennis as that's professional sport and Formula One, but cycling, they don't take it seriously. So there's no respect or appreciation. And that's something that I think it just takes time. And I mean, I know that our mountain biking scene's pumping, but on the road especially, it's road cyclists are people don't favor road cyclists in our country and or respect them or admire them. Where that's so different. In Belgium, I think cycling is the second biggest sport behind football. In Spain, people are aware because they have these big races. They have the world's best athletes at racing on their home roads. We don't have that here. So there's just no understanding.
Yeah, and we could sit and talk forever, ideas on how to solve that, but we were talking earlier about, removing the moat model and replacing it with, an abundance mindset. Everyone collectively needs to transcend the cycling community, look beyond it. One, to grow it, to make it bigger so that everyone benefits, and two, to start to shift that narrative. And that mountain bike high school league, I think, is a major step in that direction. Attendance numbers in terms of participants could be much higher, but if it's 1,000 kids across the country that do it, that's 1,000 kids, 2 parents, it's 2,000 people that are thinking about their kid on a bicycle.
Exactly.
That maybe initially they don't make the connection, but as time goes on, want to go ride on the road, it's going to force you to start thinking differently.
For sure.
I took my son Dill for the first time on the road. We did the same loop we did today, actually. Exactly the same loop.
Did he also drop you on the uphill on the down?
He actually attacked me at the top of Radial. He did. And here he comes around the outside. Dylan drops. It was hilarious. My legs were hurting, so I had to work to get past him. He's a naturally gifted boy.
Gets up with his mother.
He did initially. Yeah, he does actually. Candice is definitely the better half in every measure. And I thought to myself, it was a really weird, polarizing thought that entered my mind. We spoke about it on the breakaway this week. Is this a bad parenting decision? Should I actually not be going out on the road with him, knowing what I know? We all know what happened this past weekend. And I was like, that is such a stupid and bizarre thought for a parent to be having. Is this a bad thing to be taking my kid on the road? Because what if he enjoys it? Is it worth him losing a limb over, losing his life? Really, really bizarre thoughts. And we spent, the ride was quite a while. And I spent the majority of it explaining etiquettes, road rules, preempt, look ahead. It's not about what's here immediately and your numbers. Look at the car down there, the dog over there, the thing, situational awareness. Yeah. We spent the majority of the time doing that. But that whole ride, that is in the back of my head. That's what I'm busy thinking. And I arrived at the conclusion, you're an idiot. It can never be a bad thing. And you got to fight the fight. That one kid could go to school and he tells 3 other kids what a vibe it was. They get bikes, they all go ride. They go on adventures. They one day sitting behind a cyclist on a bike and they're just like, cool. It's not that big of a deal.
Exactly.
And the risk is, a ripple can go both ways. The ripple effect of not doing something can be far greater. But you remove 1s and 2s, becomes 10s, become 100, become 1,000. Eventually there's no one left on the road that has any context of how dumb it is to be so enraged by waiting, not even waiting.
Yeah.
Like just moving around.
Having to go around, yeah.
That is fundamentally still a South African, which we all generally are pretty patriotic about. Anyway, felt compelled to ask that. That's hopefully an area where we can all break down some barriers around.
Definitely. And like you said, is that snowball effect, and 1 becomes 3, becomes 9, becomes... But that's something I struggle with. I have a young son and immediately it's like, no, he's not going to ride a bike, because of the dangers around it. Yeah. And it's not just vehicles, it's all the other things. And I'm thinking to myself, this is my life. This has been my passion. This has been my career. And I know how much joy it's brought me. And I want to not let my child do that because of the dangers around it. But it is something that we have to worry about. And it is sad, but I think, I know
he's got no chance.
I know there's no chance.
He's got just one of your genes. You've got Slim. Does he have a push bike yet?
He does. Cannondale,
my gosh.
I mean, he got a bike before I got a bike from Cannondale.
Brilliant.
So he does have one. And yeah, he's only been on it a few times, but no doubt he's going to be racing around soon.
Well, we must get him on the pod soon.
Actually, get his thoughts about it, road safety.
That's a nice segue into bikes. I did want to ask about, I couldn't not notice that Cannondale. You've never struggled to be honest about any of the equipment you've ridden, things you've taken. You've ridden most brands, I would imagine, by now.
Fair few.
And my first question is, what was the last bike you paid for?
Good question. I think it was a Scott Foil 20 in 2011.
Okay. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
You got a good ride, man.
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. Very, very
You still
fortunate.
have it?
My dad has it now,
Okay.
and he rides it. Yeah, so we've still got it.
So, which leads me, I may have a clue to the next question. There's this do-it-all bike, climbing bike, aero bike. Where are you at? Is there such a thing as a climbing bike anymore?
I don't think as much anymore. Back in the day, there was like Specialized had a unique one. Cannondale did, Trek did with the Amonda, things like that. I think now bikes they're all good. I mean, to be dead honest with you, all brands, they're top level bikes. The R&D that goes into it, the testing, everything, the composition, it's all good stuff.
Splitting hairs.
It really is. I mean, I think, yes, you do get your specific aero bikes now, but it also comes down to everything on it. It's the handlebars. It's not just the bike. The frame of a bike, they're pretty good. I do still feel the difference. It's not like worlds apart. And you made a good anecdote just earlier about, if you're in a Polo 1.4 or a GTI, it's a difference. The engine side, there is a difference. And you can feel the difference on a bike. But yeah, nowadays, a good bike's a good bike. Having said that, my Cannondale's pretty fast.
So they've gone, that's obviously the Lab 71.
Yeah.
Maybe run through the specs of your bike. Let me not butcher them.
Yeah, Lab 71, full Dura Ace. It's got the reserve wheels, so it's quite a relatively new brand.
The wheels are nice.
They're super good. Yeah, it's really. I think the only reason I got away from you today was because of the wheels. And obviously the Pirelli tires. Also, I'm not sponsored by Pirelli. So it's an absolutely stunning bike. I'm still waiting for the handlebars because it comes stock standard with like an integrated stem and bars. And
is that the Momo one, or did they move away from it?
Momo.
It's still Momo.
It's still Momo. And I'm quite particular, and
the Momo one looks so nice.
No, it's unreal.
Flip, it's such a subtle finish that they've got on it, but it looks
so good. Had I had those bars, I think at Cape Town Cycle Tour, I would have maybe been a little bit further ahead of Jaden, and people wouldn't have said that I nearly lost it. So,
with the celebration, that was, your hearts were in mouths.
But you know what? Again, I've said this so many times. Go look at like the helicopter footage of the actual line. Yeah. Days, man.
You know how to put on a show.
Showman.
I was hoping I'd be that close today, but having ridden with Jaden in the past, I knew I wouldn't be. If that's how close he was, I had a good idea I wouldn't be anywhere near. So that Cannondale, what was before that? It was a Trek probably with Lidl, or were you on a Cannondale before?
I was on one, so I got one for the first 2 months of the year, because this model was only launched in February at the UAE Tour. So prior to that, I was just on the Evo 2, which was also still a nice bike. But not as nice as that.
This is the range topper. One thing I like that they've done with Lab, we were joking the other day at the Active Hobo Cafe at the end of the Savage ride. We told Oaks to post as a joke that we have an S-Works only bike stand that's through the cafe, because there was a bike stand in there. It was like, only the guys with S-Works can put your bikes there, as a joke. It gets posted. Oaks like, is this real?
Oh my gosh.
It was absolutely hilarious. But we looked at the bike rack on Tuesday, and I remember growing up, like this idea of scarcity, not necessarily the actual scarcity it solves.
Yes.
Think diamond industry.
100%.
Think the list goes on. And brands have become very good at artificially creating, the idea of scarcity. That to me used to be in S-Works. There wasn't a plethora of them around. Using the golf reference, because I'm from Boksburg, so I resonate hard with cars. I feel like there was a time that there were more GTRs on the road than Golfs, like normal Golfs. Like just GTRs flipping everywhere. Now there's none because they're like $1 million a car. And I feel like that spares at the moment. I see more. It's like, is an S-Works a specialized, or is, because like you just see that S-Works everywhere.
Yeah.
2 bike racks were just
Cool.
S-Works. That's all there was there. How many of them were imports from China? I don't know. But knowing the guys, probably none.
Probably not.
And the Lab 71 has done this magic scarcity thing where it's like, even if you wanted one, if you went to John O'Connor, if you went to, you know, any of the other resellers, you're like, I want one. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't know when we'll get, don't know where they are. Like, can't tell you in the world where it's like, this type. So when you see one, well, at least when I do,
You're like,
Lab, no one carries the hype of S-Works as a model range.
yeah.
But Lab's definitely picking that up. But like, you don't see them. That must be one of the only ones in the country. Like there's none. Like you don't find that.
no.
Layup is a big difference. Frame weight's a big difference. Spec, components, wheels obviously make a big difference. That layup difference in the frame, I've been told, I mean, I have a little bit extra insight from the Olves crew because I can talk to the product team there because it's smaller and they own their production. So you can have a direct conversation with the guy, like, what is the difference? And he says that the saving on the weight of the frame is actually negligible, inconsequential in actual fact. He's like, the layup, which sounds like such a marketing mumbo jumbo load of nonsense, it's like that makes a huge difference. Where specific high tensile pieces of carbon go determine ride feel,
like the weight
snappiness
distribution
and all these things that we talk
stiffness.
about. I'm like, how do you solve that? Like that sounds like marketing mumbo jumbo. Like I don't know that. How can I believe that? It's like, well, you got to ride them. It's like, if you ask anyone that, you know, at a world tour level, generally these people are quite in tune with their equipment. Is there any substance to that?
100%. You know, someone like, over the last 10 years, I was doing roughly 1,000 hours a year on the bike.
Fuck.
You know, so it's between 30 and 38,000 Ks a year. You're spending a lot of time on the bike. You know what a bike feels like. You can feel when a bike's starting to get a bit tired. You can feel when it's not as snappy, not as stiff, not as responsive. You can feel when there's a bit of flex at the bottom bracket. You know, and also when I first turned pro, like I could be on a bike that's not even my size and I wouldn't even know, you know, and then you get a bit older, you know, you start feeling things a bit more. You can feel when a bike is more comfortable. So I could definitely, even from, you know, a 2025 Cannondale Carbon Evo 2 to the Lab 71, immediately you can feel the difference. Like it's marginal, and it's not. I'm not going to say you're going to go from doing a 4-hour Cape Town cycle tour to a 3-hour just on the bike, but you get out the saddle, or you put power down, or you go down a hill, you know, get a bit of an air attack going, and you do feel a difference.
In a game of marginal gains, that's what you pay for.
That's it.
This is not a Cannondale ad for anyone wondering, but what I will credit them with a lot. So one of the podcasts I'm avidly subscribed to is called The Nero Show. It's these 2 Aussies, very authentic, like ruthlessly authentic. They don't sugarcoat anything.
Oh, nice.
They speak with incredible authenticity and integrity, and they call each other out. Jesse Coyle is the one guy, and he's in the detail. So the week before, the guy will review the Chinese frame, and he's like, you know, the Chinese don't know how to get geometry right, and he like slates them. Next week, he's on a Cannondale, and he's like, all the buzzwords. You know,
he's dropping
feel, and you know, the geometry just fits Jesse. You know, this Aussie accent, and he's like, well, hold on, you slated that bike last week. Like, I'm looking at the geometry here. It's 1 centimeter off. Yeah. You said, and it's 1 centimeter in the direction that you were slating the other one for. So it's even worse. Even worse. The one.
Yeah.
You can't say that. And now you're on a Cannondale, but last week, so like that on the show, and they leave all of that in.
That's cool.
And you go check the comments, and it's like people are just so. And you know, the other guy's not like scum about it. He's like, yeah, I suppose maybe that is a bit, like they're just so real. It's brilliant. And the reason I'm going on about them is they look at the white papers that get released with these bikes.
Okay.
You know, like Factor One releases that bike, and you'd swear you could do one pedal stroke and finish cycle tour.
That's the narrative. That's the marketing team.
Ridiculous. Among many others. Yeah. And they've always said, like, the Cannondale white paper has always been what it is. Like, we haven't reinvented the wheel. It is very iterative. We have a philosophy in terms of the design. we're constantly refining it. And he actually rode the first iteration of that specific model.
Okay.
And he was like, it was an absolute pig, I think is the exact terminology they used. And he's like, and it's the same concept, it's the same methodology, but this is now 10 years down the line, it's refined. It's like they've nailed it. And it's like oaks frothing for the bike. It's just so brilliantly done. Which I respect. I dig that. I can't stand these white paper, 40 watts fast. It's like bullshit.
Exactly.
No, it is not.
It's not possible. Yeah,
like
exactly.
It can't be. Like, if that was the case, then you would never lose a race. Like, come on.
What I can't understand is how people fall for this. Like, I remember every single year at our team training camps, you'd always have your meetings and you have your performance meetings and your strategy for the year and your goals and things like that. And there'd always be, all the sponsors would come and talk to you about, why they're sponsoring the team and their products and what the new stuff we're going to get and how it's been developed. And I also have got to ride all the tire brands out there. And you'd literally be sitting in a meeting and someone, and I'm not going to mention brand names, but they would tell you how their tire is definitely 17 watts faster. And you're sitting and you're thinking, so per tire, so that's like 35 watts overall. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And then, and they're trying to they're convicted, and they're trying to sell this to you. And okay, man.
Look, I was watching I can't remember the show now, but they were saying that it was a psychologist that was saying the real impact of an elite level cyclist thinking that what he is on is the fastest has a far greater impact than than the thing.
Believe that.
So you're on that bike and you're like, I'm on the lightest, fastest, where if you were going out with, let's say, the Evo, so it's like, it's fast, but the guy next to me, I know that psychology is massive in terms of its impact. I think that's another whole rabbit hole, psychology and sport and how much of a role it plays.
Touching on that, though, I remember doing races where we'd go to a Grand Tour and you'd have your GC rider and then you'd have other riders kind of riding in service of them and then freaking out because they don't have the titanium bolts or they don't have the special chain, the wax chain, or, seeing that he's got the TT tires and literally their race was over. And the whole time, that you can see they're worked up and they're tense and they're, because, they don't have the titanium bolts, they're saving 1 gram.
Yeah. Pritson has a beautiful saying, the fastest bike is the one I'm riding. Munton as well. That's the fastest bike you own.
Sure.
It's the one that you're riding.
Oh, it's just the one that they own?
Yeah, no, it's the one that you're on. And I think there's that 10,000 hours of mastery rule. I think over the eternity of time, and some people are more finicky, there's definitely something there. Like I can feel, because I'm bouncing around between lots of different frames within the old things.
Yes,
and anything comes and I'll move all my stuff over and so I don't get the long-term feel, but I change often enough that I can immediately pick up differences. And then I'll move the same components to, I've still got Spares and Bianchi and pick a brand, there's one there. So it's a nice, it's a cool exercise to do that. There aren't enough brands that own a range of brands that allow you to just go and ride bikes. We had Andrew Goldon from Chevita, and he made a really good point. He's like, similar saying, someone will think that our bib is the best because the way that we cut it and the way that our bib fits you is perfect.
Exactly.
Now,
doesn't mean
Scicon, this bib, you might put it on, and the way they do their chamois or the way they cut or whatever, just off.
Yeah.
And you're like, Chevita is the best. I don't like Scicon. Someone else will have the exact opposite experience. And he said it was cool of him to say that and acknowledge, how high the level is in general within the apparel space, because it is. It's like, I can't think of anything more competitive at the moment than trying to sell a $5,000 bib. Because there's a plethora of them that have all got the Pantones and the colors and, having almond milk cappuccinos and all the kombucha stuff going around. Like, it's been shot, it's been done. And they're using the same set. That whole road we rode along, basically.
Exactly.
It's like, I've seen that before. But it's, the same can be said for bikes. Like there are some bikes, for whatever reason, I just could not get my Trek Top Fuel to work. It was right everything. It just couldn't. Just would not work. My wife's Bianchi Ultra loves it. It was a birthday gift for her. She hates it. It's like the worst riding bike ever. She's like, it's just so crap. I rode it through the whole of Italy and I was like, I love this bike. It's brilliant. It's maybe one of the best bikes I've ridden. She's like, hate it. Can't stand it. And I mean, I'm not in the centimeter geometry game. Like, new frame comes out, it's the stack, like, it's not for me. Like, I can't nerd out at that level, it's too much.
You just get your saddle height and your reach, and then you're good to go.
I'm quite happy. But that's a real thing. Like, it can be such a small thing, and then fuel and lap and blah, 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 blah. Cannondale, you're a personal brand ambassador to them? Is that what that relationship is? Or what is their role in present and future for you?
Yes, I've just got an agreement with them with the bikes. So I've got a road bike and a gravel bike from them, and Campbell's bike. And at the end of the year, I'll either return them or sell them for a certain amount and give them the money. And then hopefully in the future they decide to renew with me. But yeah, that's how it works for now.
It's definitely another rabbit hole for a day. How brands work with athletes in the ultimate quest to grow our sport. There's so much room for improvement there. You're well placed to understand it. You've seen it. You know the nuance. Like, everyone's trying to sell more products at the end of the day. We get that. But the best way to sell it is to make more people want your product.
Yeah.
Not the 5 people cycling. We need 500 people to want to cycle. Yeah. And there's stuff to be done there. But
I also struggle with this where, I've been very, very privileged and fortunate to be in World Tour teams. And in World Tour teams, the amount of product you get is disgusting. I probably had 10 frames last year because you've got 2 home bikes. So a home bike for South Africa and Europe. You've got 3 TT bikes, two race TT bikes, and sometimes a home TT bike. And then you've got your race bike 1. You're going to have a race bike on car 1, a race bike on car 2, frame in the truck. You're definitely going to crash and break a frame at some point.
yeah.
So they've got 10 frames roughly per rider per season. And I'm not like a big dog.
Yeah.
I was never like a Mads who's probably double that. Bars, like clothing, sunglasses. There's so
Wheels.
much. So they're just handing it out like it's nothing. I mean, with Innovate, they used to send us 40 kilograms of product every quarter. 40 kilograms. And this is not for, like, at races and stuff, it's
different story.
It's free. You just go there and you grab what you want and they're making bottles. This is what they're sending to your house. Half the time you're not even at home because you're at training camps or you're at races. So you just accumulate so much stuff.
Yeah.
Majority of it you throw away, you give away because it expires. Yet you then come to South Africa and, if you're lucky to get a tub of mix or you're lucky to get 4 pairs of gloves. And again, I understand, especially depending on who your sponsor is and how big they are, you have to look at the global picture. But
Economies of scale, yeah.
Someone will give you a hat and, you've got to be very grateful. And yes, you are grateful for that free hat. Of course I'm grateful for that hat. But don't make me have to thank you and because I got a free hat.
And yet, there isn't an economist or a future visionary that looks at the African continent and doesn't acutely understand that this is where growth is going to come from in the global economy.
100%.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling. Who pays for all those bikes? Is that sponsored?
Yeah.
Or does the team pay for those bikes?
It's sponsored.
That's nuts.
It's all sponsored.
Did you ride the Y1 RS? Were you still with him when that was out? That's mad era.
No, I did not. The last one I had was the V4R or V4RS.
And I've heard so many mixed reviews on that brand.
I didn't mind it. It wasn't particularly fast. It was very comfortable. It was a good bike. I mean, Poggy could win any race on any bike, so he's the exception to the rule. Very, very good bike, but it definitely wasn't fast. It was a little bit heavy, a little bit sluggish.
Highly regarded as one of the slower bikes in the Peloton.
Oh, for sure.
Which I found fascinating.
Yeah. Especially considering it's a brand, like one of the biggest brands in the world, so much money, and the cost of the bike's also up there. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw one for the first time in person a week ago, and I hate how much I love it. It looks so much better in real life. I like arbitrary things. And I just want someone to tell me that it's terrible, don't buy it.
It's a gimmick.
It
looks like a spaceship.
It looked so cool. The guy had the full setup.
Really?
I'm sure he was a dentist. Like, he had to have been a dentist. He looked like a dentist.
Or a divorce lawyer.
Yes, it was so nice. Anyway, we've spoken at length about racing the future, and that's, I hope we can be part of the uncovering of the clues that will lead to what I feel like is inevitable success. I'm talking financially. I'd feel as destined as you were to perform at the level you did on the stage you did. I think the same will be true for the life after cycling, whether or not that's racing or otherwise. And I mean it when I say that our capability and what we have is at your disposal. Like, we would love to help and be part of that in whatever shape or form. And that's sincere. But there is a flip side to racing and die-hard commitment to the craft. And you don't just cycle 24 hours a day. There is life after cycling. What is that behind closed doors lifestyle like? Again, Europe and back here, because I was so pleasantly surprised when you told me how human people can be. I won't mention any of the athletes' names. I'll leave that for you to do. But that you could share in a glass of wine, maybe even two, with ABC, and like, they're so flippin' normal. Like, that blew my mind. Like, I couldn't imagine that you'd be sitting having 1 or 2 beers with elite level cyclists, or wine, or maybe even hungover once a year. It's just like, really? They're human? They do fun things?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Tadej can dance because we saw the videos, but like the rest of the peloton, like, we have this like zombie-esque view of them. Is there a normality behind that people don't see? Because I feel like there is one of the most undertold stories on earth.
I think you get some who are very, very vanilla and very beige, but that's a select few. End of the day, we were professional athletes. Professional athletes get paid to do a job. They have to look after themselves. So the majority of the time, yes, it is very structured. It is very disciplined. It is maybe even mundane at times. You know, you wake up, you go to the gym, you go have breakfast, you ride your bike, you shower, get a massage, rinse, repeat for periods. But having said that, pretty much every single stage race we did, whether it be 7 days in Catalonia, 8 days in Paris-Nice, you know, the Tour de France, that after party, people were getting ready for that after party day 2. I remember turning professional, going to my first race, and I was in the room with Bernie Arsel, and he's like, "Oh, Ryan, where's your shirt and your jeans?" And I was like, "What do you mean? I've got like my team tracksuit and everything." He's like, "No, but for Sunday night." And that was it. You know, These guys are the most professional. They're very extremist, but they're extreme in everything they do.
Okay.
And these guys know how to have fun.
That is so good to hear.
And guys you wouldn't expect. You know, guys who are winning big races, they know how to throw it down.
Who's the undercover jawler of the cycle scene we don't know?
100% an American called Brandon McNulty.
Yeah.
He also lives in Girona. He is an absolute weapon on and off the bike.
Okay.
It is unreal. I remember I went to Girona Beer Fest. So it was Oktoberfest, but they had one in Girona. It was early October. My season was winding down. I knew I was going to retire. Everyone knew I was going to retire. So I was serious-ish.
Yeah.
This guy was leaving the next day to do Tour of Croatia. And I got there a little bit late, and he's standing on the table, 2-liter beer, like jugs in his hand, absolutely on another planet.
Yeah.
Ended up going home at 4 o'clock that morning, flew to Croatia that next day, and he won the Tour of Croatia last year.
No.
Yeah.
Legend.
Absolute legend.
Is that stuff, I mean, maybe I'm just ignorant, is that, you don't see that?
No, it's not common, and
Is it frowned upon?
It definitely is frowned upon. You know, it's because it is actually unprofessional at the end of the day. But it shows that we are still humans, and I mean, guys who are good are going to be good regardless. Like, I've also seen Poggy have a few beers too many and then win one of the hardest one-day races in the world 48 hours later. He was going to win regardless.
That is unreal.
It is, and I think if you're a sponsor, you don't want to see that. You know, you're putting so much money in, and you're doing everything right. You've got dietitians and attention to detail. You know, you want to make your saddle this much lighter, but then you're going to go and have 3 beers. You know, so you don't advertise it or publicize it. And I'm probably going to get a nice message after this, but the guys are real, and it's not a common thing, but the guys are still real and know how to have fun.
I don't for a minute think anyone should recklessly promote what can be very dangerous. Like and that's not this at all. But I think it does so much more good for the growth of the sport. I mean, I'm just like grinning on the inside and out. Like, I cannot imagine it. As much as I'd love to see Teddy first over the line,
You'd like to see him
I'd love to see him make a beer, or doing those crazy bus dance moves out, like, because it humanizes him.
Yeah.
And I think that's possibly somewhere where cyclists go off on this tangent, because you do alienate yourself so much in at least the optics of like this robots. Like, you know, triathletes are probably on the most extreme end of that spectrum. It's just eat, breathe, sleep, lycra. Like, no, that's not appealing to anybody. No. That's like the worst thing in the world. 100%. It's like, no. Actually, we are normal. We are human. Like, not that drinking's cool or anything, but it is also, it's social and it's human and it's celebratory. And
it doesn't have to be drinking though. Like, I mean,
sure.
You know, guys also, they're living and they're weighing their rice and they're counting their peas and, you know, they're cutting their chicken because they're only allowed to have 175 grams.
Legit.
And then we'll go and smash like 5 bowls of ice cream. And you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, or guys.
It's like, not sustainable. I don't care who you are. You can't count rice, beans, kernels, whatever. 10 years. I mean, you just can't.
It's not sustainable.
There has to be some human given. If that's 5 beers, a bottle of wine, 3 bottles of wine, 10 tubs of ice cream, whatever. Like, you've got to
have there's
got to be some sort of release.
But and you know, there is pressure from sponsors and that, but they're just hypocrites as well. I mean, I remember my contract with UAE. In the contract, you know, it was like a 48-page document about what you can do and can't do, and what, you know, about being professional, and you've got to understand
professional conduct.
And one of them was, don't do anything that's reckless or that's going to be potentially dangerous. So don't go play paddle, don't play squash, don't play indoor football, no bungee jumping, I mean, those things you can kind of understand. Yet at the training
paddle's a bit ridiculous. I mean,
you know, your ankle
let's not
or your
emasculate
knee
the paddle
or
players. They already got their chest buffed out and peacocking all over the seaboard.
It's not that dangerous. But so, you know, you're not allowed to do anything, like don't run downstairs kind of thing. And then at our team training camp, we're driving Formula 2 cars and we're, you know...
brand activation.
It's unbelievable, you know, going to Ferrari World, going on roller coasters where like people's necks are going all over the place, but you can't run downstairs, you know? So
it's like a lawyer came up with a contract to protect them in the event of.
That's probably it,
That does lead me to an interesting question. I was talking about your teammates, your team managers. Are there team owners that are more of a vibe to be with than others? I mean, I would imagine the guys at like the UAE team owners could be an absolute jewel, like just gajillionaire, UAE families that don't really need to care too much about anything and just enjoy themselves, or everyone pretty stiff?
I think getting more and more stiff. You know,
corporatizing more.
It's everyone's got to be so careful. You don't want a Instagram video to come out, and at the end of the day, it is a business, and you do want to be the best, and it's professional sport, so it is getting more and more strict. And I think I get it. Teams like the JCO, you know, they're a bit more relaxed. An EF, a bit more relaxed. Trek is now getting more strict. Bora used to be like the Jewel team. Everyone knew.
Oh, really?
Bora was the Jewel team. Like, if they were always going to be at the after party. They were going to get messy. They were having beers already on the bus after stage 3. You know, that was Bora. Now, not so much anymore. Very Austrian, German, Red Bull. Trek also now with Lidl coming on board. Trek used to be quite relaxed. Well, when I say relaxed, very professional and striving to be the best. But at the same time, the owners were cool. Team training camps, you always have in October, would be like a team bonding camp. And it always used to be known as drinking camp, where they've moved away from that. You know, you'll do team building activities, and you'll maybe have one night where you guys can go to the bar and have 2 or 3 beers. But when I turned professional with Dimension Data, we came to Cape Town for a week, and you'd get maybe 5 hours of sleep in 7 days, maybe. And that's just what it was. And everyone knew it. And like people were scared, like the youngsters were scared to go to this camp because they knew what was going to happen and they didn't have a choice, where you can't do that anymore.
Talk about putting stress on your system.
Yeah, exactly.
We can remove this if it's a trigger, but that's McDonald's burgers in the bib, ride Joburg, if it's one of those if you know stories. Who smuggled cheeseburgers into your jersey?
Myself and Pascal Ackerman. We the issue with Rye Joburg is that it's on a Sunday,
Yeah.
which is after a Saturday. And Pascal Ackerman came to stay with me, and he was only here for 2 or 3 weeks, and so that's only 3 Saturdays. So you've got to capitalize. So we ended up going out and realized, oh flip, we've got to ride, we've got to do a race. And we got home, didn't really have much time, couldn't make our oats. So we cycled to a McDonald's and we ordered a couple of burgers, and then we had 1 or 2, and then we cycled to the race. And forgot that one of the McDonald's burgers was still in my bag. And it was a lovely snack after about 40 Ks. Good source of carbs. It did repeat on me for the next 2 months.
Yeah.
I still feel like I'm burping McDonald's burgers from then, but yes, that was a good
it was
story.
a good laugh. It was one of those, did the rounds, did you check the burgers? I was like, this is such a great opportunity for McDonald's to get involved in cycling.
That's what I was doing. I love,
I wasn't implying anything else, of course. It's fuel is fuel. We're going to spend the evening here and enjoy what I think is certainly the best wine in the world. Are you a wine guy? Are you a beer guy, brandy guy?
All of the above, I reckon.
Okay.
I'm not picky, and I'm open to anything. But I do enjoy a nice glass of wine from time to time.
Okay, not
you have
kind
any-
of swearing or any. You're not like
No, I'm
deeply
not
fanatical about any of that.
No, I'm not going to tell you what oak or what
I contest
tones.
But 10,000 hours. Remember,
I reckon you're the kind of guy, you'll take this and you'll be able to say this is May. This is May 2021.
I'll tell you if I like it or not. That's as far as my palate goes.
I can tell you what color it is. And that's pretty much.
I'm colorblind, so I can't even do that.
I'll tell you what color it is. You tell me if you like it.
Simple. Right, I have been absolutely spoilt today. I can't thank you enough for your candid openness, the willingness to come down here. I mean, obviously, you've flown in from Joburg, for anyone that isn't aware. Having to slum it here at the Nordic Village Hotel. You've had this horrible weather you've had to endure and suffer through.
Terrible pastries, yeah.
Horrible, coffee, horrible, just really putting in the hard yards here today. But I know that you have a tough schedule. We literally couldn't find a weekend over the next 3 months, so you're doing this during the week. I sincerely, really, really appreciate it. So thanks for your time, thanks for the ride, thank you for dropping me at every chance that I had. And wishing you and the family all the success and happiness over the next forever. Looking forward to doing more stuff with you guys, really.
I appreciate that a lot. And also thank you and to your team for hosting me and for looking after me and putting me up in, slumming it here, showing me around. I mean, I think you're an advocate for Noordhoek. I don't know if you get commission, if someone moves here or comes here on holiday, because you did a really good job. But thank you so much. It's been amazing. And also thank you for what you're doing for the industry and the sport. Chatting with you, it's never about me or you. Every conversation, everything you say is about the sport and about giving and helping and growing. And it's special to see. There's nothing in return. There's no expectation. It's just, I was blown away. So kudos to you and thank you for what you're doing.
It's very kind and a pleasure. Let's keep building.
Definitely.
Cheers.
Definitely.
Bud, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Love it.
Really, really, really cool.
Definitely. Time for a beer, surely.
Oh, yeah, try and
Yeah, there. Next door to.
I am also struggling.
Like that's not.